They crossed her fence laughing, unaware that every step into her land was a step toward the trap she had prepared. The morning sun caught on the edges of their tools, glinting like treasure, but all the sparkle in the world couldn't hide the mistake they were about to make. The mountain was hers, and it had eyes that had once seen war, precision, and survival in ways ordinary people could never comprehend. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. Her name was Mara, an exile sniper who had traded the chaos of the battlefield for the quiet of isolation. But quiet did not mean defenseless. The mountain she called home had been meticulously mapped, every ridge, crevice, and path memorized. Every trap she had set was designed to confuse, disorient, and, if necessary, eliminate intruders without leaving a trace. Her reasons were simple. This was her sanctuary, a place of peace after decades of conflict. And now, those who had trespassed would understand just how dangerous her calm could be. The intruders, 3 men, armed with greed and arrogance, laughed as they clambered over rocks and brush, muttering about hidden gold and fortune waiting beneath the soil. Dust rose around their boots, drifting in sunlight like sparks of what they thought would be wealth. Mara watched from a concealed vantage point, her rifle steady, her breathing controlled, her mind calculating. She didn't want them hurt at least. Not unnecessarily, but she could not allow them to desecrate her home. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the faint rustle of leaves and the scent of damp earth. Mara's finger rested lightly on the trigger, a symbol of her readiness rather than intention. Her thoughts drifted to the past missions, the decisions made in split seconds that had weighed on her conscience. Could she stop them without violence? Could she teach a lesson that would last longer than fear? The first trap was subtle, a disguised pit covered with loose brush and stones. One man stepped forward confidently, the other 2 laughing behind him. Foot slipped. A muffled shout cut the morning air, but it was not fatal. Mara's heart skipped, not from fear, but from the knowledge that the mountain had spoken in the way she had intended. Caution first, consequence second. They stumbled, scrambling to regain balance, laughter replaced with frustration. The mountain's rhythm seemed to pulse with Mara's own heartbeats, a silent chorus reminding her of years spent honing patience and precision. Every glance, every noise, every shadow was accounted for. She moved silently, almost like a ghost of the battlefield she had once known, adjusting traps, shifting vantage points, predicting the intruder's movements with uncanny accuracy. As the men tried to regroup, arguing among themselves, Mara considered the moral weight of her actions. She could see their greed, their entitlement, their recklessness, but she also saw fear. The primal instinct to survive once they realized the mountain was not theirs to conquer. She had been in moments like this before, and she knew the line between teaching a lesson and crossing it was fine, razor-thin and unforgiving. The intruders, now wary, began to notice the subtle shifts, a loose rock where none should be, a shadow moving in tandem with theirs.
Panic.
Replaced laughter and whispers of suspicion traveled between them like a contagion. Mara remained calm, every movement precise, every observation methodical. She was both predator and protector of her sanctuary, predator of foolishness and arrogance. The climax came when one of the men tried to flee, scrambling down a narrow ridge path that Mara had prepared. Her rifle was ready, but she did not fire. Instead, she signaled with a small whistle, a sound barely audible, and the ground itself seemed to conspire against them. The man slipped, caught briefly on a route, his teammates frozen with fear. The lesson had been learned. The mountain was not a playground, and she was not someone to be underestimated. By the time they finally retreated, breathless and shaken, Mara remained unseen, watching from the shadows. The men stumbled back over the fence they had crossed so carelessly, murmurs of awe and fear escaping their lips. Mara exhaled slowly, the adrenaline fading, replaced with quiet satisfaction. She had defended her home without unnecessary bloodshed. She had enforced boundaries, not just with skill, but with moral clarity. Because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. Mara descended from her perch, the sun warm on her face, as the mountain exhaled in silence. Her traps had not been lethal, but they had been lessons about respect, patience, and the cost of arrogance. The wind carried whispers through the trees, as if the mountain itself approved of her restraint. She had not sought revenge. She had sought understanding, a way to turn trespassers into witnesses of the consequences of their actions. Later, she would walk the ridge alone, surveying the land she had protected, feeling a quiet pride in her strategy and restraint. The intruders' laughter would haunt the echoes of the mountain, but it would be tempered by the memory of their fear and respect. Mara had transformed her battlefield experience into guardianship, using skill and wisdom rather than cruelty. The mountain remained hers, quiet and sovereign. Every rock, every tree, every shadow was testament to her vigilance, her patience, and her courage. Mara understood that true power often lay not in domination, but in the careful balance of threat and mercy. And as she stood on the peak, the sunlight catching the edges of her rifle, she felt the profound truth of her life. Discipline and restraint could be just as powerful as any weapon. If this story gripped you, leave a comment below and subscribe. Share where you're watching from and join us for more cinematic. True to life, tales of courage, skill, and the extraordinary choices ordinary people make. Because sometimes the fiercest lessons are taught not in violence, but in wisdom and strategy, and those who listen walk away changed forever.